So are you the kind of person who really enjoys variegated plants, whether or not they're white variegated, yellow variegated, or kind of a minty green variegation? Or are you a person that's looking to get into variegated plants? One of the biggest challenges that we all face with variegated plants tends to be that they can be quite slow. However, in my experience over the years, there's a few variegated plants that are fast. Let's have a look at some of my top picks for fast growing variegated plants. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So as I was saying at the beginning of the video, a lot of variegated plants can be quite slow growing. Some of them can also get some browning on the variegated tips, basically. So I thought over the years I've been growing quite a few of these plants, and some of them have grabbed my attention in terms of how fast they can be and also how resilient they can be on their variegated sections not browning off. So I thought, let's do a quick video. I'll talk you through some of my favorites and hopefully get some of your opinions in the comments down below. If I've missed any in this video, do let me know some of your top favorites down below. And I mean in terms of speed predominantly, or resilience as well. You can put that down as well. But yeah, let's dive into the first one. So for a lot of this video, a lot of these variegated plants that I have, the mother plants are absolutely huge, so they're very difficult to pick up. However, I do have, for a lot of them, little mini propagations, either ones that have just started or ones that are kind of a bit further down the journey, but nothing huge just yet. Hopefully I will be inserting clips of the mother plant so you can kind of see the true size of it basically. But I thought I would start you off with a plant that is relatively common-ish to find, and this is, and do ignore the browning, it's just because some of these leaves were a bit busted to begin with when I started the propagation. This is the Pothos N'Joy. And there's a few other options that I could have chosen for here. Obviously things like the golden pothos, which has the yellow variegations on it, that can be one of the hardiest ones and it can be fast growing, and as long as you give it high enough light levels, it should retain some of that variegation, some of that yellow splotchiness on it. But for a kind of more white variegated look, and again, I do apologize for the browning on these tips. It's less to do with this plant and it's more to do with its conditions when it was getting propagated. So this is one of the other pothoses that, or epipremnums, that can, in my experience, be super fast when it comes to growth. And I've got multiple sections, and hopefully I will be adding videos here of how this plant grows in my care in terms of how fast it can be. And this is almost on par with a golden pothos. Now, this is also a plant that, at least in my experience so far, I have had it for at least 3 or 4 years now. Every single year, when it comes to the transitional period between summer and autumn, it starts getting a tiny bit of root rot because I don't adjust the watering fast enough, but it has bounced back several times. I have got multiple propagations of this plant all over the place, and as I said in some of my videos that were happening during the festive season, I have since grabbed a lot of these propagations. This is the only one that's kind of remained out of that kind of scenario, and grouped them into one major plant. So then at least I've got a bit less watering to do. They're all within that one plant. But super fast. Again, benchmarking against maybe something like a golden pothos. If a golden pothos in the growing period, which might be kind of spring and summer, might bring out 3 or 4 new leaves each month, this would more or less be on par, at least in my experience. And generally speaking, unless you kind of really batter this plant like I've done, the whites remain white. I have, I'm trying to think, have I ever grown this in household conditions? Yes, I think I have done, and I haven't had an issue. If you have grown the Pothos N'Joy in regular household conditions, i.e. lower humidity levels, and you've struggled with this, do let us all know down below. But yeah, definitely one of my first picks would be the Pothos N'Joy. Beautiful variegation. There's others as well that are variegated, like the Snow Queen or the Marble Queen, and they are relatively fast in my experience, I've found, and there's even more variegation on those plants. Are they as fast as the N'Joy for me? No. And before somebody says this, was sold this as an N'Joy. Is it Pearls and Jade, I think, is the other one that's kind of slightly reversed from this, and some people have said that these might be sports of something like the Mandula Pothos, possibly. The Mandula Pothos is definitely not on this list. It can be a beautiful plant, but it's not the fastest growing variegated Epipremnum, at least in my experience. Next on the list is a plant that is near and dear to my heart because I had almost one that was the size of me, size of a small tree, and that is, and let me pick up again, a propagation that's only recently been moved into, I have watered, so does this ring any bells? I'm going to have to clean up the floor again after this, yay! But the Burle Marx, the Philodendron Burle Marx Variegata, and you might see some of the variegated leaves. You can see some of the green leaves as well there if it will focus on the foliage rather than me. But yeah, this is a plant that I had to add onto this because, and there's certain caveats that I will give in terms of how fast this can be as a variegated plant. So it's to do about rooting, and I have done a review video and I will add it somewhere at the top. I will also hopefully be adding in a video here, or maybe even a picture. I don't think I've got a video anymore of the mother plant when I first had it. And I should also have a video of one of the most variegated sections that I cut off the mother plant before that mother plant went to the great jungle in the sky, shall we say, a while back when I was redoing the conservatory, and it just snapped in too many places basically. But I took loads of cuttings basically. Some have now become green Burle Marx. Not Burle Marx. Yes, Burle Marx. I don't know. I need a coffee apparently. I need a second coffee. I've only had the one this morning. But some of them have actually got some decent levels of variegation. The variegated forms took longer to root out. And that's the thing I was going to say about speed with this one, because again, something I experienced when I first got mine is that it can be very, very slow until it fully roots out to a level that it's happy with. And then it will go like the clappers, basically. It will go super, super fast. The thing that you do need to pay attention to with this plant, more so than anything else, and it will teach you how to deal with variegation, is that you can get reversion happening quite quickly, but this is also a plant that will quite happily be chopped back to the last variegated leaf to then stimulate more variegation to come through. The reality is the big plant that I had by the end of its life was maybe 40 or 30% variegated, and the rest of it was green, so that obviously sped it up quite a bit. But still, to say that these plants can be very, very quick when it comes to bringing out new leaves and also growing fast, basically. So I was just looking, I thought that might have been mealybugs. It wasn't. I think there was a bit of dust somewhere, but yeah, very, very cool plants, very fast growing in terms of their variegated leaves. Again, benchmarking against the Golden Pothos, growing season, 3 to 4 leaves each month. This might bring out 3 leaves in the same month. So it can be very, very fast and hugely rewarding. I think there might even be a white variegated form of the Burle Marx Variegata Philodendron, but I'm not entirely sure. I think I saw that a while ago. It might have even been on Kaylee Ellen's channel, but the more standard form that you would get is the kind of yellowy form. And very, very cool. It's not it's not polarized, not photo. It's not polarized variegation, so it doesn't dull down. It does a bit, but you will still have variegated leaves. I mean, this leaf is probably the leaves that it got propagated with from my original plant, and that's as much as it's died down, basically. So you still get to keep that variegation level on there. And just a truly cool plant. I really, really rate this. I think recently I also saw that one of the common names, I think, potentially for this, it might just be in the States, was Philodendron New York or New Yorker Philodendron. I don't know why. It might have been, I would imagine, the green form of this, because it can grow like a weed, and it might have been one of those things that existed a lot at the bottom of some of those massive skyscrapers in the lobbies and stuff like that, because it's just a plant that keeps on going, basically. I guess, massively guessing here, but If you know differently, tell me why. Next one on the list is another philodendron. And again, I have got a small propagate of this because my big plant is way too difficult to move. Even a newer propagation that I have, which again is quite large, very difficult to move. But I will bring it in so I can show you there. This is not the White Knight. This is not the White Wizard. This is the White Princess. And it is a plant that will get quite cool variegation quite early on, actually. So you might see that it gets sectoral variegations that you might get on like that one leaf, and you might get the kind of half moon situation happening there. But it is a plant that, at least in my experience, and does this need a bit of a janky support stick or a moss pole, considering how much it's wobbling? Yes. But mind your business, basically. I'm going to get to it eventually. I've been saying that for 2 years now. And you might be saying 2 years, that's not particularly fast. For some reason, this and one other propagation that I got from it is grown like poo, basically. Other propagations that I've taken from that plant have propagated like a charm. I don't know what I did wrong with this. I've moved it around for too many growing medias, so ignore that element of it, basically. But even that has meant that with the level of abuse that this plant has got, it is still pushing out variegated leaves. There's another one as well that had a similar level of abuse. That's doing a bit better. Does that also need a moss pole? Probably. But that's most of my plants in this conservatory. But whether or not they get it or not is a different story altogether. But yeah, the variegation on this I find is very cool, because if you want true kind of lily white variegation, this plant for you, 100%. The White Wizard, the White Knight, they've also got that lily white variegation. I can only talk on, I think the White Wizard is what I've got, not the White Knight. And I have heard all of you in the beginning, I thought it was growing quite fast. That was in the growing season. Has it kind of halted down to like almost doing nothing in the winter? Yes. So that one's definitely not on it, but all three of these plants have got that lily white variegation. I don't know from the White Wizard, because I've only ever had it in here. I don't know how it would fare in terms of regular household humidity, but I've grown this in regular household humidity and I didn't have any real browning on the white sections or anything like that. As long as you're kind of maintaining the right watering, you should be fine. But very cool plant. Again, growing season benchmark for golden pothos. 2 to 3 or 4 leaves in the growing season. This might bring out 2 to 3 new leaves in the growing season per month, which is not bad for a variegated plant. That's kind of on par with certain other plants that are all green as well. So the Philodendron White Princess is definitely up there. Definitely up there, because it just keeps on going, really. It doesn't throw too much wobbly. It's interesting because unlike the Pink Princess or Caca Princess, this one doesn't seem to ever really get stuck too much. It will always have some level of variegation on the leaves, instead of hoping and praying and wishing and hoping for like a splash of pink somewhere on the Pink Princess. This one is very different. And I know a lot of people maybe have held back from the White Princess after having the Pink Princess going, I'm not going through all of that again. Trust me, try it. Because this, an entirely different plant. In the way that I've experienced this plant in relation to the Pink Princess, almost an entirely different plant. So I'm pretty sure they're both based on the aerobescens. I might be wrong, but yeah, 100% if you've not tried the White Princess. And I know not everybody's had great success, and if you haven't and you want to share why, please do so in the comments. But in my experience, this is a very cool plant. Very fast in terms of its growth as well. Predominantly in the growing season, this is one that doesn't do too much in the winter months, while some of the others will still be growing, like my Burle Marx Variegata, that will still be growing even in the winter. But yeah, this is one that beautiful variegated leaves. And hopefully, I keep forgetting to add like a little section here on the mother plant, and you should be able to see what it can look like and how big the leaves can get. It is truly a sight to behold. The next plant on the list is one that's a bit huge, and I will bring it in so you might be able to see that beautiful, one of the beautiful newest leaves there. And I think that might be this. No, this one. This one is the newest leaf. and that is the exact previous leaf there. But the Philodendron Jose Buono, or Jose Buono, I'm not entirely sure, I think I've been butchering the name for a while, and this is a plant, I think I've done a review of this and I will add it at the top there, and I have backtracked on my opinion on this plant so quickly, and I agree with what everybody was saying in the comments. It just, my one took 2 years to get to the point where it was happy. But this is a plant that now that it's happy, grows like mad. Absolutely mad. This is what the variegation kind of dies down to, so it's not too bad. Does this variegation look a bit brighter in the summer months when there's a bit more light? Yes. Does it dull down a bit in the winter and when it matures? Also yes. But super fast. My experience from that first review was that it wasn't fast at all, and it was because I got an unrooted cutting, I think, back then, and it just took forever to root in. And I actually got an unrooted cutting. I don't think I've still got the original leaf anywhere, but it was a very large leaf, and this one's actually got some variegation on it. The one that I got had about that much variegation. That little tip was variegated. Everything else was green, so I'm just like, oh, I'm going to get a plant that's going to have low levels of variegation. Doesn't seem to be the case with this philodendron, but very cool nonetheless. Does it grow a bit weird? Yes. Does it have aerial roots for days? Also yes. But this is definitely a plant that I'd be very remiss if I didn't add it onto this section, because out of a lot of the variegated plants out there, this grows like mad. And again, I'll give you the benchmark against, say, something like a golden pothos. If a golden pothos will bring out a new 3 to 4 new leaves each month in the growing period, and how many times have I said this already in this video, and I'm going to say it again, probably yes. This one won't bring out 3 or 4 leaves. It might only bring out 2 leaves in the growing period, maybe 3, depending on where you've got it and how happy it is. But well worth it. If you want something that's really going to have some impact, this is definitely one. And I mean, look at the roots. This root here looks like it's got root rot. It might very well do. I might need to cut that one off, basically. But it's mainly because I think there was a bit of water collecting at the bottom of that water reservoir. But you can see there's other roots on there. They're quite close to the one that has got maybe some root rot, and it doesn't seem to affect it in the slightest. So relatively resilient philodendron as well. So the Philodendron Jose Buono, if you can get your hands on one, grab it. Much more so than the Paris Verde. Do not get me started on the Paris Verde. When it's variegated and you buy it as variegated, it looks great. Good luck trying to get the variegation back. I know there's a lot of debate online, and I hear all of you, but the problem that I'm having with a lot of the comments that I'm hearing from everybody is that they contradict each other, basically. So there's no consensus on that one. Is it the heat? Is it the light? Is it both? Is it neither? Is it that it needs specific conditions? Like, everybody's tried all different renditions, and sometimes it's worked for some people and sometimes it hasn't. So I don't know. But this one, it's a bit more like plug and play, and just put it there and it will do what it needs to do. Much better. And it doesn't grow anywhere near as leggy as the Paris Verde. So definitely one to consider, something like the Jose Buono. And the next one on the list is a ficus, believe it or not. This is, no, hopefully hide my face so you might be able to see the stunning variegated foliage there. Hopefully it will focus. This is the Ficus Shiveriana. Very cool, or Shiveriana Moonlight. It's basically the variegated form of the Ficus elastica. There is one that we're more used to seeing, which is the Ficus elastica Taniki, and there's another one that's not, that got the pinkish blush that the Taniki's got. I can't remember what that one's called. Both of those can be quite fast. I assumed, based on how little chlorophyll is actually happening on some of these foliage, that it was going to be super slow. And I was actually getting a lot of comments from all of you saying, actually, my one, after it gets really established and happy, it grows like the clappers. Wow, I was not expecting that. Really wasn't expecting that. I've got a relatively small specimen, probably about only this big. the end of this summer, and it's almost doubled in height, which for a Ficus elastica, that is fast. So again, let's do the benchmark with the golden pothos. 2 to 3 leaves, 3 to 4 leaves in the growing period for a golden pothos per month. This one, probably 3, I would say. Again, in the growing period, and this one it's slowed down now that it's the winter months, but actually it is still growing really, really happily. So very, very cool plant and surprisingly fast. I wasn't expecting this to be as fast as it's ended up being. So if you were kind of concerned about maybe not getting one, they can be tricky to find at times. But if you were concerned about not getting one because you thought it was going to be a lot slower than something like Ficus elastica, at least in my experience, and I think some of yours, it really hasn't been. This has actually been a relatively cool plant to kind of grow. So very, very interesting and fun to grow, and a lot faster than I would have assumed. I was trying to see if you can see some of the roots yet, but maybe if I bring it in a bit closer there, you might be able to see if it will focus. Will it? You might be able to see some roots there, yeah. But seems to be doing really, really well. The soil mix that I've got it in is the Soil Ninja's Ficus mix, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, doing really, really well, and seems to be loving life, and is actually quite a fast and reliable variegated plant. Now the plant that I'm going to finish everything else on, I don't actually have in front of me because it's very difficult to move the one plant that I've got, and I will add a picture or a video here, which is the Syngonium Albo Variegata, basically. And I'd be remiss if I didn't add that onto here. I know a lot of people probably already know this, but it can be a very, very fast plant to grow. Also, it doesn't seem to slow it down too much in terms of its variegation. It's almost on par with what a green Syngonium would be in terms of its growth. So that is quite cool. Again, benchmarking it against that golden pothos in the summer period, 3 to 4 leaves a month in the height of its growing period for the golden pothos. The Syngonium Albo is almost the same, maybe 3 leaves each month during that growing period, and it still keeps going even in the winter. I'm kind of looking at it at the corner of my eye. Hopefully I will have videos and photos that I can add on the side here. But it's another good one as well, like the Burle Marx Variegata, that you might get some all green sections, and obviously you need to chop it back so it can go back to that variegated, so you can keep bringing out variegated leaves. But when you chop it back, essentially what you've got is a green Syngonium. Plant that up, and a presto, free gifts for your friends in terms of all green Syngoniums, which tend to be hardcore basically. And you never know, sometimes it might even get a variegated leaf that comes out of the cut, reverted sections that you've got from the Syngonium Albo Variegata. There is a Syngonium Aurea Variegata, which is the yellow, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure there is a yellow one, if I'm not. Yeah, I think there is. I've never grown that one, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that one. But the white one, again, it's a similar one. That this one doesn't have the lily whites that you might get with the White Princess or even the White Knight and the White Wizard. It tends to be a bit of more of a creamier variegation. But yeah, it will grow relatively fast. Again, you'd need to have a plant that is more than just one leaf and it's a rooted propagation basically. But after it's kind of established, it grows relatively fast without too much of an issue. Very rarely have I ever found that to be a plant that you will get an all white leaf, and if it does, there's enough green on the rest of the plant usually that it can maintain it before it kind of ultimately maybe kills that off to then get new foliage coming through. But because it's such a heavy viner, you could easily chop things back if you needed to and then propagate, or just chop it back if it's gone all white to see if you can get a bit more green coming in through that stem and through that node. But yeah, I think I will end you on the Syngonium Albo for this video. But I'd be really curious to see, do your opinions match what I have found with some of these plants? Do they differ? If so, how? Let me know down below. And also, did I miss any? It might purely be because I don't have the plants that you might mention, but again, let us all know down below, because I think a lot of people will be very interested to know not only about beautiful variegated plants, but also plants that are variegated that don't take an eon to grow, basically. Because sometimes some of the variegated plants, they can take a while. And for the people that are not patient, like me, that's frustrating. For the people that are patient, maybe it's a great option for you, basically. But yeah, it's good to know which ones will kind of give you a bit more of an instant impact, or just basically beef out and kind of grow a lot faster than, say, something that takes forever to grow out. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.